He Ramakrishna Madhuram Tava Satcharitram Tvat Punya Nama Madhuram Madhuram Tadangam Sambhashanam Cha Madhuram Madhuram Cha Ganam Tat Kimnu Yanna Madhuram Bhavati Tvadiyam. O Ramakrishna, sweet is your life story. Sweet is your name, and beautiful is your body. Sweet is your conversation and your singing. O Lord, is there anything which is devoid of sweetness in you? Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Friends, we are observing our Sri Ramakrishna's birth anniversary service. Her birthday we observed last Sunday. Festival, of course. And today we have a guest speaker, Swami Prasannatmananda, who is the Assistant Secretary of Vedanta Society, Berkeley. Swami is new in this country. He joined in 1985 and got his final vows in 1995. He worked in the educational department of our it is called Vidya Mandir. It is in Belur Math. It is a degree college. He worked there. And then temporary, some years he was in Ranchi. Then he was in the research department in the Ramakrishna Mission Institute of Culture. I saw him, but I don't remember. You see, when I came to this country, they joined. I don't remember them, but anyhow, I met him a few times in Berkeley. And I invited him to be our guest speaker. He agreed, so we are very happy that he is with us. This morning his subject will be Sri Ramakrishna's philosophical teachings in connection with our Sri Ramakrishna's anniversary service. So I request Swami to speak on that topic. Swami Prasannatmananda.
Om Jathargno Dahika Shakti Ramakrishne Sthita Hiya Sarva Vidya Sarupangtang Saradam Pranamamaham. Most revered Chetanananda Ji Maharaj and the devotees of Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, and Swami Vivekananda. when revered Maharaj ordered me to come to deliver a lecture, I told Maharaj that Maharaj, generally we speak on Thakur, Ma and Swamiji after reading your book, and it is very difficult for me to deliver some ideas on Thakur in front of you. But Maharaj, as usual, encouraged me, so I am here. Today, the subject is Sri Ramakrishna's philosophical teaching. In the Memorandum of Association of the Ramakrishna Mission, it is said as one of the objects of the association, quote, to impart and promote the study of Vedanta and its principles as propounded by Sri Ramakrishna and practically illustrated by his own life. So we know the Vedanta is one of the philosophies of 6 schools in Eastern philosophy. But this Vedanta, as propounded by Sri Ramakrishna and practically illustrated by his own life. So in this presentation, I have tried to find what kind of Vedanta was propounded and illustrated by Sri Ramakrishna. Is the same Vedanta, which is one of the 6 schools of philosophies, or something else? We know the Vedanta is one of the 6 Eastern Orthodox philosophical schools. It is a timeless philosophy which has passed through 3 periods. The first, or the ancient period, began with Upanishads, in which the philosophical concept flashed in intuitive thoughts. The seers, the rishis, they realized the principle of Upanishads and they delivered. In the Middle Age, the classical period, Vedanta was split into several schools such as Advaita, Vishishtadvaita, Dvaita, monism, qualified monism, and dualism. In the modern period, Vedanta began with Sri Ramakrishna. And so we might ask, do the philosophical principles propounded and practically illustrated by Sri Ramakrishna for the good of the mankind differ from traditional Vedanta? What is the philosophical stand of Sri Ramakrishna? We know that Sri Ramakrishna, as a religious personality, as a mystic man, as an incarnation, God man, spiritual man, etc. But we never heard that Sri Ramakrishna delivered any concrete philosophical ideas. This presentation has 2 parts. The first part is the theory and the second part is practice. In the first part, the philosophy of Sri Ramakrishna and its gradual development are examined. In the second part, the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna, which are prescribed for practice, are explained. Now, we just go through the first part. To go deeply into the subject, we have to understand very briefly what Vedanta is and how it is connected with Sri Ramakrishna. Vedanta has not only been the living philosophy of Hindu religion from the Vedic period to the present time, but also a way of life. Number one, it is not only a philosophy, but it is a way of life. From the very ancient times in India, unlike in the West, philosophy and religion have remained inseparably interrelated. The second characteristics. Philosophy and religion are very closely interconnected in Vedanta. The aim of Vedanta, both as a philosophy and as a religion, is direct transcendent experience for the ultimate reality. The third characteristics. The Vedanta as a philosophy, the way of life. Philosophy and religion is closely interconnected, and the aim of Vedanta is the transcendental absolute reality. In the ancient Greece, on the other hand, philosophy and religion remained completely independent of one another. In the Middle Ages, during the scholastic period from 9th to 16th centuries, philosophy was converted into theology in the West and was subordinate to religion. But in the modern period, which began in the 17th century, religion and philosophy completely separated again and followed independent course of development in the West. So, in short, religion and philosophy are inseparably interrelated in India, but are totally separated in the West. Now, what is the background on which Sri Ramakrishna propounded and illustrated the philosophy of Vedanta? Sri Ramakrishna propounded it from the experience of his life. And from his highest spiritual experience. These are the basis of Sri Ramakrishna's foundation for his propounding the philosophy of Vedanta. He had only rudimentary schooling, but he educated himself in the greatest school, what is called life. The 18th century philosopher and educationist J.J. Rousseau showed that life is the best teacher. Sri Ramakrishna spent his boyhood in communion with nature. As he grew older, he keenly observed the ways of life, the behavior of people, and the vagaries of fortune. Through his natural process, he acquired a good deal of knowledge and wisdom. For Sri Ramakrishna's education was a lifelong process. He used to say, "As long as I live, so long do I learn." Surprisingly, the view of Sri Ramakrishna is in accord with the Delors Commission report on education submitted to the UNESCO in 1996, which recommends lifelong education and stresses the importance of maintaining a continually evolving body of knowledge throughout the life. Sri Ramakrishna gained a deep understanding of Hindu philosophy from his two main teachers, Bhairavi Brahmani, who taught him Vaishnavism and Tantra, and Totapuri, who taught him Advaita Vedanta. Apart from this, large numbers of pilgrims and wandering ascetics used to visit Dakshineshwar Kali temple. Many of them were scholars, and Sri Ramakrishna used to listen to their learned discussions. By all of these means, Sri Ramakrishna acquired a vast amount of philosophical knowledge. Through his stupendous spiritual effort, he tested the different truths inherent in these concepts. What is more remarkable about this spiritual verification is that, unlike other mystics and saints who followed only one path of their choice, Sri Ramakrishna followed several spiritual paths and philosophical currents of thought. He had a clear understanding of Advaita, Vishishtadvaita, Gaudiya Vaishnavism, Tantra, Bhagavatam, Ramayana, and many other systems. The ideas and terms that he garnered, traditional sources enabled him to clearly express the vast spiritual knowledge and wisdom he attained through direct transcendental experience. So, two bases. One is his spiritual greatness, and the second is his experience from life. In this way, out of his mosaic of spiritual experience, Sri Ramakrishna developed his own unique, integrated philosophical system of Vedanta. He was able to explain Vedanta more spiritually on the basis of his own practical realization. Moreover, Sri Ramakrishna harmonized the various spiritual paths and experiences of different religions and thereby laid the foundation of universal spirituality and universal spiritual movement. Thus, we can describe Vedanta philosophy as propounded and illustrated by Sri Ramakrishna as a spiritual philosophy or philosophy of spirituality. Unlike Western philosophy, this is not an addition to the existing philosophical schools, but Sri Ramakrishna's own philosophical view expressed through the conceptual framework of Vedanta. It is not propounded because of his allegiance to the tradition in which he was born, but because he found that Vedanta provided a universal and comprehensive philosophical framework which could be adapted to modern thought. So, this is the background of the gradual development of Sri Ramakrishna's spiritual philosophy or philosophy of spirituality. Now we come to the second part, where we will see the practical teachings of Sri Ramakrishna. In the 19th century, India, along with its political and economic freedom, felt a great need to free spirituality and philosophy from the clutches of religious dogmas and social institutions. This task was accomplished by Sri Ramakrishna. His wonderful philosophy of universalism was meant for all people without distinction of caste, creed, religion, race, and culture. Let us take this example. How Sri Ramakrishna expressed his teachings of universalism. The incident happened when Holy Mother came to stay at Dakshineshwar temple for the first time. Sri Ramakrishna told her almost in the beginning of their contact, "The moon is addressed as uncle by all children, so also God is the uncle, the common property of all. Everyone has a right to call him. Whosoever thus calls on him becomes blessed by realizing him. If you, therefore, turn your attention to him, you too can attain him." This is the universalism of God. Whosoever prays to him, irrespective of caste, creed, color, whoever is pure or impure, can attain him. The second feature of Sri Ramakrishna's this concept of universalism is harmony. The universalism of Sri Ramakrishna's philosophy is attained not by neglecting other system of philosophy, but by accepting and harmonizing them. It is also a philosophy of harmony of religions, harmony of ways of life, because we have heard that Vedanta is the way of life. It is not only the harmony of religions, but it is also the harmony of way of life. Harmony between love for man and love for God. Harmony between contemplative life and the active life. We face difficulties to harmonize our contemplative life and the active life. So, harmony of religions, we shall take the examples one by one. Harmony of religions. We know the stock example given by Sri Ramakrishna for harmony of religions. But it is not bad if we repeat it again. The same waters, different names. God is one only and not two. It is like the same water in a lake. A Hindu drinks it at one place and calls jal. The Muslim drinks it another place and calls it pani. And still a Christian drinks it at the third place and calls it water. In a similar way is the name of God. A Hindu calls him Bhagavan, a Christian calls him God, a Muslim calls him Allah, so on and so forth. Opinions are but paths. Each religion is only a path leading to God. As rivers come from different directions and ultimately become one in the ocean. This is the harmony of religions. Now we shall take harmony of ways of life. Sri Ramakrishna's philosophy tells us how to live in the world. He gave the example of Janaka, Rajarshi Janaka. We know that difference between Devarshi, Rajarshi, Maharshi. The Devarshi, we know, the Devarshi is called Deva, the God, and the Rishi, the combination of God and Rishi. Rajarshi is the administrative power, king, and the Rishi, the seer. And Maharshi is the seer, Mahan, with the Rishi. So this combination. So Narada, Janaka was the administrator, and at the same time he was the seer. He was Rishi. So Sri Ramakrishna gave the example of Janaka, who performed worldly duties. Sri Ramakrishna says, they did it while bearing God in their minds, just as a dancing girl. The dancing girl balancing a tray of jars or on her head. Haven't you seen how the women in the northwest India walk, talking and laughing while carrying water pitchers on their head? They are doing their daily work. They are carrying water or some trays or pot full of water. At the same time, they are laughing, talking, and doing everything. Sri Ramakrishna gave another example, the husking lady. He is husking the rice. At the same time, she was communicating with the customer. At the same time, she is giving the breast to her children. So these are the things. At a time, she is doing so many works, but her mind is in the husking machine, husking that. So it was always keeping one hand at the feet of God and do duties, worldly duties. So take another example where Sri Ramakrishna prescribes how to live as a householder and at the same time gives us assurance. It matters not whether you live the life of a householder or man of the world. Only you must fix your mind on God. Do your work with one hand and touch the feet of the Lord with the other. When you have no work in the world to do, hold his feet fast to your heart with both of your hands. He gave another example. For householders, mental renunciation, but for monks, renunciation both mentally and externally. One other example. One is safe to live in the world if one has discrimination of real and unreal and have non-attachment, and along with this intense devotion to God. Three things: discrimination, what is good, what is bad, or what is real, what is unreal, then the non-attachment and the devotion to God. These are the three keys how we can live in the world. Now, Revered Chetanananda is here. Once I tried to search the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna and try to find how many points Sri Ramakrishna gave as his instructions. If we go through the Gospel, we find that just like a doctor, Sri Ramakrishna prescribed medicines. He used to call Bhava Vaidya, means the spiritual doctor. So just like a doctor, he prescribed the medicines. Take the example, when our friends or near or dear becomes very seriously ill, what we ask? Generally, we ask 4 questions to the doctor. Number 1, will the patient be cured at all? The second question we generally ask, what are the medicines required? The third question we ask, how we will give the medicine, either it is in empty stomach or early in the morning or just after food, or it is hot water with hot water or cold water, how to serve the medicine to the patient. And the last question, what is the symptom from which we can infer that the patient is recovering? Generally, doctor, they give the answer when they analyze, describe the disease, but still we ask these 4 questions. I repeat, will the patient be cured? What are the medicines required? How we will give medicine to the patient? And what is the symptom from which we can infer the patient is recovering? So if we go through the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, we will find these 4 questions, exactly the similar question, was asked by M. Let us see. First question of M to Sri Ramakrishna, can we see God? Just as a doctor, we ask, will the patient be cured? Can we see God? Second question, what are the medicines required? M's second question, how we can concentrate on God? Third question, how we will give medicine to the patient? How we can live in the household? And last question, what is the symptom from which we can infer that the patient is recovering? M's question, in what state of mind God can be seen? These 4 questions were asked by M, and Sri Ramakrishna gave all the answers. Let us see. Can we see God? Sri Ramakrishna's answer, yes. How can we concentrate on God? Please see the prescription. Sri Ramakrishna prescribed 1, 2, 3, 4. We shall come to that point. How we can live in the household? Sri Ramakrishna says, keep your mind at the God and do your household duties. Number 4, in what state of mind God can be seen, or what is the symptom from which we can infer that the patient is recovering? In what state of mind God can be seen? Sri Ramakrishna answers, longing. These 4 questions and 4 answers. Can we see God? Yes. How can we concentrate on God? Please see the prescription. How can we live in the household? Keep your mind at the feet of God and do your household duties. In what state of mind God can be seen? Longing. And now we shall go to the prescription. I just searched how many points Sri Ramakrishna gave in Kathamrita, the Gospel. I found 11 points. But I am sure that there are more points, and it is very good if you can find other points, and please convey me, then I can add it with this list. So what is the prescription? Just like a doctor, Sri Ramakrishna gave the prescription. Number 1, please keep association with monks. Number 2, remembrance of God in isolation. Number 3, discrimination. Number 4, prayer. Number 5, faith. But this faith is not the synonym of blind belief. If we try to understand faith, what is faith? Very beautifully described in Kathopanishad. What is faith? It is said there that faith has entered into Nachiketa, the young boy. So this faith is the combination of self-esteem, discrimination, fearlessness. So this is faith. And Swami Vivekananda said that if one word is the gist of all the Upanishads, and that is Obhi, the fearlessness. This is the essence, one word. If we can just combine the essence of all the Upanishads in one word, according to Swami Vivekananda, that is fearlessness. So this is connected with faith. Number 6, surrender. 7, repeat the name of God. Number 8, truth. Truth has a very high place in Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda's movement. Number 9, longing. Number 10, simplicity. Number 11, study, reflection and meditation. So this is the prescription given by Sri Ramakrishna for the modern age. Let us see very briefly all these 11 points. Association with the monks, sadhu sangha. What is the effect if we keep close touch with the monks? There are 4 changes takes place. 1, love for God. If we keep our association with monks, these characteristics we can develop. love for God. Number 2, longing for God. Number 3, development of the faculty of discrimination. And above all, our mind, we can keep our mind into the high spiritual realm. Second, remembrance of God in isolation. One should meditate in a corner, in the forest, and in the mind, Sri Ramakrishna says. What is corner? Corner means where there is no disturbance. In the forest means where there is no crowd. And in the core of one's mind. So these are the places where one can meditate. This is the remembrance of God in isolation. The places are where the isolated place, these 3 places are isolated, as Sri Ramakrishna prescribed. Then discrimination. Discrimination between real and unreal. If we take up a project, we should examine that, yes, is this the effect of this project, is the result of this project is real or unreal? It is permanent or impermanent? It is truth or false? It is good or bad? It is joyful or sorrow? Joyful means the immediate pleasure, not immediate pleasure, but permanent one. So immediate joy is pleasure, but which is permanent is joy. Now the prayer. Sri Ramakrishna always advises us to pray. Prayer has a very good impact. Narada in Bhagavata says, Eto dhyatur chittanam matra sparshas chyamuhu bhavasindhu plabodrishta haricharja anuvartanam. Whose minds are disturbed with the enjoyment of the worldly things. For them, prayer is the only boat to cross the ocean of the world. In Bhagavatam it is said. Always we heard this thing, mind is so disturbed, what to do? But Bhagavatam clearly says, and prayer, one of the important point Sri Ramakrishna prescribed. So this is the only boat to cross the ocean of the world. Then faith. Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda, both of them, they emphasized faith. Faith is the best thing. One has to pray to God by saying, give me devotion, give me faith, Sri Ramakrishna says. There will be great relief if one will have faith. If one does not have faith, like a small boy will not realize God. Then he says, Ramchandra had to construct a bridge to cross the ocean to reach Lanka. But you see, Hanuman, the great devotee, Hanuman did not construct the bridge because he had faith. Then surrender. In Haribhakti Vilasa, beautiful six stages. What is called surrender? Sri Ramakrishna always used to say surrender. Sharanagati, surrender. So this surrender, what is surrender? Haribhakti Vilas gives us 6 points that these are called surrender. If we have these 6 qualities in our surrender, so this is called real surrender. What are these? Anukulasya sankalpo pratikulasya vivarjanam rakshishattiti vishyaso septritva varanam tatha tat kriyatma vinikshepo shalavidha sharanagati. 6 things. Number 1, listening those things which are congenial for God realization. Only listen to these things which will help for the God realization. Number 2, other discussion must be avoided. Number 2. Number 3, form faith that God always protects me and staying with me. Number 4, surrender at His feet. Generally, we understand surrender means this kind of surrender, but it is not. There are another 5 types. Number 5, He will bless us. On His belief, on this belief, one has to wait. Generally, we don't have any time. We pray when we are in problem, we are in difficulties, we just pray Him. And in no time we will say, oh, response has not come. So it means there is no God. So it is not a capsule. When we are in a problem, we just take a capsule and immediate effect will come. It is not like that. We have to wait. When we pray, we have to wait a little. Then the grace will come. So we have to wait with this belief that yes, grace will come. Number 6, to continue spiritual practice without any motive. So if these 3 qualities will be there in our surrender, then it is called real surrender. Then repeat the name of God. Again in Bhagavatam it is said, Krito yadhyayato Vishnum Tretayam jajato maghai dvapore paricharjayam kalautad harikirtanam. We know the whole existence divided in Purana, divided in 4 ages. The Golden Age, now the Iron Age is going on. So it is said that Kriteya Dhyayata Vishnu, what was the spiritual practice in the Golden Age? It is said that meditation to Vishnu was the spiritual practice in the Golden Age. Then in Treta, in the age of Ramachandra, the spiritual practice was Jajato Maghai. Jajato means the sacrifice, fire sacrifice. If you go through Ramayana, you can find that there is a fire sacrifice everywhere, because that was the spiritual practice of that age. Then Dwapare Puricharjayam, Sri Krishna. In Dwapara, Sri Krishna was the Lord. So in Dwapara, Puricharjayam, we see everywhere we find that we decorate Sri Krishna very well, we serve Sri Krishna, we give very good, offering to Sri Krishna. So Puricharjayam, if we just serve Sri Krishna, that was the spiritual practice. in Dwapara. And what is in Kalau, this Iron Age? What is the spiritual practice in Iron Age? It is said, Kalau tad Harikirtanam. Take the name of God. Repeat the name of God. This is the spiritual practice in the Iron Age. And Sri Ramakrishna prescribed, repeat the name of God. Next, truth. Again Sri Ramakrishna says, truth is only spiritual practice, only the spiritual practice in this Iron Age. No need for meditation, nothing else, only truth. That is the only spiritual practice in Kali Yuga, this Iron Age. In the present age, truth is only spiritual practice prescribed by Sri Ramakrishna. Then longing. If one can intensely long for God, it means his God realization is not far. We found in the fourth question, it is said that in what state of mind God can be seen? Sri Ramakrishna answered, longing. So, longing, if one can intensely long for God, it means his God realization is not far. Just after intense longing, the next step is God realization. Sri Ramakrishna says, long to mother. Now we may ask the question, how this intense longing will come? Sri Ramakrishna says, long to mother. If you have longing for God, God will listen to it. If we can call or pray Him regularly, how this longing will come? Sri Ramakrishna says, if we can call or pray Him regularly, then longing comes. Then simplicity. Sri Ramakrishna gave the example. If the mirror is dirty or full of dust, we cannot see our face. It should be cleaned, then only we can see our face. Similarly, if the mind is not clear, not simple, we cannot see ourselves. Sri Ramakrishna says, simple mind is equivalent to simple intellect, and simple intellect is equivalent to Atman. So these are the chains. The cosmology, according to Vedanta, says that first is Atman, then intellect, pure intellect, and then the mind, and then the senses. So if we go back, if our mind is very pure, very simple, it is equivalent to pure intellect. If our intellect is pure, buddhi, then that is equivalent to Atman. Thus, this is the prescription of Sri Ramakrishna, and if we can follow this prescription, we are sure that we can elevate in the higher level of spirituality. The 11 points Sri Ramakrishna described. As I mentioned previously, during the classical period, Vedanta splitted into several schools. Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda accepted all the schools. Their philosophy may be therefore be described as integral Vedanta. What Sri Ramakrishna actually did was to recover the Vedic vision of unity and harmony, which is one of the most enduring contributions to the Indian culture. Let us see how Sri Ramakrishna beautifully harmonized these three schools: the Advaita, Vishishtadvaita, and Dvaita, dualism, qualified monism, and monism. We know the Hanuman, the great devotee of Ramachandra, the monkey god, was the great disciple of Sri Rama. Once, this Hanuman said to Rama, "Sometimes I think you are fool and I am part. Sometimes you are the master, I am the servant. And when I would have the absolute knowledge, I see you and I are indifferent, one and the same." What a great example! How beautifully Sri Ramakrishna harmonized the principle of these three different schools of Vedanta. When Hanuman said he was the part of Rama, that is Vishishtadvaita, means creation. Advaita, it is said that everything is Brahman. The creation has no existence. So everything is Brahman. But Vishishtadvaita said that yes, creation has its own identity, but it has a relation with Brahman. What is the relation? The relation, it is the part of that Brahman. So this part, when Hanuman said that you are the master and I am the servant, then it is dualism. And when Hanuman said that you and I are same, then it is Advaita. So, Sri Ramakrishna's philosophy, again, neither world negating, not world affirming, but Sri Ramakrishna's philosophy was world transforming. Its aim at the divinization of life. Sri Ramakrishna never liked the negative attitude towards life, which holds that life is full of suffering and man is born sinner. He is embracing positive philosophy, one which infuses faith, hope, strength in all people. It offers hope to even the worst sinner, allowing him to redeem himself and become an illuminated saint. Just see the example. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, what's wrong with it if you did 1,000 sins? Once you take the name of God wholeheartedly and say that you will not make any further mistakes and stick on it, God will forgive you. Just like 5,000 tons of cotton can be burnt in a fraction of a second by a flint of fire. Similarly, infinite sins can be burnt by a single glance of the merciful God. Sri Ramakrishna removed the barriers between man and God, between love for man and love for God. Indeed, his philosophy is a philosophy of divine love. We know Swami Vivekananda said Sri Ramakrishna, explained Sri Ramakrishna in one word, L-O-V, love personified. So it's the embodiment of infinite love. Holy Mother also said. Above all, Sri Ramakrishna's philosophy was not just a matter of speculation or an intellectual exercise regarding direct experience, but his philosophy was realization. According to Swamiji, religion is realization. It was a practical and completely living philosophy of higher life. Its aim was to help humanity to attain the highest wisdom and the highest fulfillment. That is why Sri Ramakrishna's main teaching was God realization is the summum bonum of human life. There are so many examples and philosophical aspects of Sri Ramakrishna. We have dealt with some of those aspects which give us not only hope, assurance and confidence, but help us to move surely and steadily, silently but definitely towards a spiritual life of eternal happiness, joy and bliss. So we pray to Sri Ramakrishna that he may bless us and take us, because we know the Holy Mother's assurance. Holy Mother said once time that we have not come, Sri Ramakrishna and myself has not come to take sweets, because it is their responsibility, and they assured us. So we always pray to Sri Ramakrishna that he will bless us and take us to the high spiritual height. Thank you.
Om Sato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mriturma Amritam Gamaya Abhiravirma Yedi Rudra Jate Dakshinamukam Tinamam Pahi Nityam. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to immortality. Light us through and through, and guide us evermore with thy loving presence. Peace, 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 and full.